welcome Hunter Lovins. Happy Earth Day! This is a day that each of us should take some time and go outside. The average child now spends less time outside than a prisoner. Think about it. And take some time tomorrow and go outside. Pete, congratulations.
Thank you.
Pete has been just a trooper in working with Natural Capitalism Solutions in helping to put together a set of recommendations for you of things that you can do on your campuses to capture the opportunities. A little cartoon character named Pogo once said, "We're confronted by insurmountable opportunities." And that's kind of what we found, that you have so many opportunities to become more sustainable, to cut your costs, to enhance the quality of your life, and have a small hand in leaving a finer future. We now live in a whole new geologic era. When you were born, we lived in what was called the Holocene, a period of unusual stability on planet Earth. And the geologists are now saying, we humans are now the dominant geologic force on the planet. We're changing the chemistry of the oceans, we're changing the chemistry of the atmosphere, we're eating away entire mountains, we're fixing to submerge entire cities. You are a school committed to sustainability. You may not know that, but your administration was farsighted enough some time back to sign a commitment that college presidents are able to sign, committing you to a course of sustainability. And you're one of the few colleges anywhere to have a degree program in sustainability, particularly at the undergraduate level. So it is quite fitting that you are exploring the opportunities that you have to enhance your sustainability. Don't feel bad if you haven't done everything yet, if you don't know everything you should be doing. This is a very new discipline. When I was in college, the word didn't exist in the English language. It entered the English language the year I graduated. And now I'm a professor of it. So when people argue about what's the right way to go, what's the definition of sustainability, and I say, at this point, we need to be being creative, not exclusionary. This is not a discipline that's been around for hundreds of years where there is an absolute right and wrong answer. This is something that we are all co-creating. And I say to my students when I teach, for the next 2 years, you're my students. After that, you're my colleagues. So let's start that relationship now. If I say something and you think it's wrong, please tell me. You could well be right. And in that spirit, what is campus sustainability? There are a whole array of projects, programs, activities, opportunities. It is not just putting out a recycling box. And it's not saying, okay, we're going to use natural gas as opposed to coal, we're sustainable. It's not just campus sustainability days. It's not tokenism. It is what's taught in the building. As I said, your program in it is an excellent program. When we were looking at the possibility of working with you, I went online and looked at your curriculum. It's a good program. It's the building itself. It's the connection to the community. Sustainability is not just about the environment. We have Earth Day. There isn't really a human day. But it's as much about society, it's as much about community as it is about the environment. Most of all, it is a commitment to be in service to a world in crisis. Because we're in trouble. The scientists at Stockholm Resilience Institute have looked at what they call the planetary boundaries. They've identified 9 of them, and that we are exceeding already 4 of them and heading towards the boundaries in some of the others. For example, the organic material in our soil, without which we would not have the sort of wonderful supper that we had tonight, is eroding, is being degraded. Industrial agriculture is destroying soil fertility. We've essentially fished out all the big fish. Groundwater everywhere is becoming increasingly precious. And we are failing to meet the human minimums. This is the work of Dr. Kate Raworth at Oxford University. She's coming out with a new book called Donut Economics, which is below the planetary boundaries but above the human minimums. What people need to have a high quality of life and dignity. And this donut, this sweet space, is the safe and just operating space for humanity. But there is a lot of hope. I was in Paris last December for the Global Climate Conference. And even before that, about a year ago, there was a piece in Bloomberg magazine. Michael Liebrecht of Bloomberg New Energy said, "It's over. Fossil has lost the race with renewables." We now have a universal legal agreement, which tomorrow will be signed at the United Nations. 196 nations on Earth unanimously agreed to step up and begin protecting the climate. Now, what that got us, we got to the starting line. What that means, very like the report that we've been working on with you, now the fun starts. Now we get to start implementing it. And time is very short. I like this Sidney Harris cartoon, two little boys scribbling equations on the blackboard. And in the middle it says that a miracle occurs. And one says to the other, "I think you need to be a little more explicit here in step 2. But we should celebrate this historic agreement. I mean, it's enough to get the nations of the world to agree to go lunch, let alone to commit to keeping temperature below 2 degrees C, which the scientists say is the upper boundary of what is safe. By safe, they mean 50-50 chance that we won't have catastrophe. If I said to you, come with me, 50-50 chance we won't have a fatal car wreck, believe you'd go with her. And 1.5 degree C warming above pre-industrial levels is safer, and now scientists like Dr. Jim Hansen are saying that's not even safe. So we don't know where these thresholds are. And indeed, the science is uncertain about a lot of things. That's what science is. We argue about it. Here's the science I like. And I would argue the science doesn't matter. Now, I say that with all deference to the great climate scientists who are spending their lives trying to figure this stuff out and trying to get their models to catch up with observed reality, which is overrunning the models. But let's assume the skeptics are right. Climate change is a hoax. Don't go to Vegas on the odds of that being true. But if all you are is a profit-maximizing capitalist, you'd do exactly what you would do if you were scared to death of climate change, because we know how to solve this problem at a profit. That was the thesis of a recent book of mine, The Way Out, Kickstarting Capitalism to Save Our Economic Ass. Dr. Mark Jacobson at Stanford University. We have all the technologies we need to solve all of these problems. We can power the entire world renewably by 2030. And the world indeed is now nearing 130 gigawatts of solar. It's growing very rapidly. A gigawatt is roughly a nuclear plant-sized chunk of electricity. A solar system is being built every 4 minutes in the US, one every 90 seconds in Bangladesh. Portugal is already 70% renewable. Scotland's going to be 100% by 2020. How fast can this happen? Very fast. This man, Tony Seba, a Silicon Valley entrepreneur and also professor at Stanford, has this book out, Clean Disruption. If you don't want to read books, go Google Tony Seba, YouTube, New Zealand, and you'll get a 54-minute video in which he explains this. What he says is that by 2030, the world will be 100% renewable energy. Not just electricity, energy. Because of 4 things. Fall in the price of solar. The costs are coming down very rapidly. Announcement this week. India, solar is now cheaper than coal. Fall in the price of storage, batteries. Electric vehicles and self-driving vehicles. The world, 80% of it will hit grid parity next year. This means it is cheaper to get electricity from your roof than from the utility company. And this is causing some serious heartburn amongst some utility executives. E.ON and RWE are the 2 big utilities in Europe. First 9 months of 2014, RWE profits down 60%. E.ON profits down 91%. Why? Because Germany and France and the other European countries are going renewable. And they said, we get it. We're going to sell off our fossil and nuclear divisions, and we're going to be a distributed renewables utility. This is what's called the death spiral. The top 20 European utilities have lost $600 billion in value over the past 5 years. $600 billion is a lot of money. And the world is changing rapidly. Little Tesla. You guys been following Elon?
Yeah.
Woo-hoo, go Elon. His brother lives in Boulder. It is now valued at more than half the market capitalization of General Motors, despite selling 300 times fewer cars. How can this be? What business is Tesla in? Is it a car company? Storage, batteries, bingo. It's a battery company. They're building the Gigafactory. When you have cheap storage and cheap solar, you're 100%. And here's what can happen. This is the 5 kilowatt system on my ranch. And my leaf. I charge the leaf off the power from the sun. And at night, I buy power from my utility. A hot summer afternoon, this afternoon I wasn't home, my system was chunking out electrons that the utility can sell to people who still want air conditioning. As long as the utility is nice to me, we go on about this arrangement forever. And utilities are useful and grids are useful. If they're not nice, I buy one of these Bosch or LG 5 kilowatt battery systems, or the Tesla wall, once it gets done being oversubscribed. And I cut the time. I stand alone. This is what's now happening in Europe. It's why E.ON and RWE were losing so much money. People are fleeing the grid. So either the utilities get smart and become distributed utilities, or they die. Yes, companies can die. Peabody Coal went bankrupt last week. We're going to transform the entire economy. We're an interesting species, yeah? We make something up, okay? We're going to have capitalism. Well, we're going to have communism. And we forget that we made them up. We think they were somehow graven in stone and handed down from above. These are just constructs. The goal ought to be, how do we build an economy that works for 100% of humanity, as Bucky Fuller put it. Here's the current problem. We, people, the planet, are in service to the economy. You may remember after 9/11, we were told to go shopping. What? Isn't there something a bit more noble we could be asked to do? We're in service to the economy, and the economy is in service to finance. We are really good at flowing money to the top 1% or 1% of 1% very, very efficiently. What's wrong with this picture? It's wrong way around. Finance is a tool to bring liquidity, money, to the real economy, and the economy ought to be in service to life. This is a concept that I've been working on with a very bright man named John Fullerton. John was 18 years at J.P. Morgan, walked away, created Capital Institute to try to transform finance. And you can get this, go online and get this piece, or better, go to John's website, capitalinstitute.org, and download his paper on regenerative capitalism. Regenerative, what's that? It's what nature is. Nature is constantly regenerating itself. Bill Reed, the great green architect, points out that nature is sustainable not because it's set out to be, but because it's regenerative. So what we are now, our economy now is degenerative. We're losing life on the planet. And all the stuff that we're doing in the name of reaching sustainability are rungs on a ladder, climbing up out of the muck that we're in. They're all important. Sustainability is just getting our nose above water. Where we ought to be heading to is being a regenerative economy. John has laid out 8 principles of what a regenerative economy is. That we get straight the relationship between us, humans, and our economy, which ought to be in service to life, and the planet, the biosphere, within which we all live. This goes back to the original ecological economists, Bob Costanza, Joshua Farley, Herman Daly, Bill Rees. Holistic wealth. Wealth is not just money. Money's very useful. But being wealthy is having family, having friends, having community, belonging, being healthy. If you ask people, and this has been done, the statisticians have done this around the world, what do you want? And try it, think of it. Go home tonight and write down, what are the top 5 things that you really want? Money is very rarely at the top. It comes in typically around 4 or 5. More money, that's useful. It's not what you really want. Innovative and adaptive. Humans are entrepreneurial. We are forever beginning again. Empowered participation. This is the work of people like Francis Moore Lappé and economic democracy. Having a say in the economy that affects you. Edge effect abundance. This is Janine Benyus. In nature, the most abundant ecosystems are where 2 of them come together, where a river meets the ocean or a forest meets a meadow. Why? Because there's diversity. And where there is diversity, there is abundance, both in economies and in nature. Robust circulation. We're a throwaway society. People like Walter Stahel in Europe, who came up with the phrase cradle to cradle. No, it was not Bill McDonough. Bill borrowed it. Or the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in Europe, which hired a guy named Dr. Marcus Gilles from McKinsey to write a report of if we implemented a circular economy, what would it do? What would it cost? Well, it wouldn't cost. It would add about $1 trillion a year to the economy. To stop throwing stuff away. Start reusing it, remanufacturing it, repairing it, recycling it. Balance. It's a Navajo concept, Chinese concept, harmony. We're very efficient at flowing money to the top, and we have a very brittle economy. But if you have a very resilient economy, you're not terribly innovative. So we need this balance between resilience and efficiency. And finally, honoring place. How cool is it that all of you are here from different campuses? Each of you has a different home campus and a different home community. You can have a global economy as long as you ensure that the places that you come from are taken care of. These principles of a regenerative economy ought to guide us in everything we do. Dave Orr, the great environmental educator, said the crisis we face is first and foremost one of the mind, perception, values, and hence it's a challenge to the institutions that presume to shape minds, perceptions, and values. Universities have a unique role to play in moving us toward a sustainable future, a regenerative economy. Those of you who are students are going to run the world. Universities train the engineers, the designers. When you think of a thing, an idea, a project, a program, a widget, in that moment of conception, you have committed 80 to 90% of the lifetime cost of that. So how you think, systems thinking, holistic thinking, is critically important. So it's not a surprise that a growing number of universities have a sustainability coordinator and have joined the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education, which you are a member of. Then you get the inevitable question, yeah, but is there a business case? Although the businessman, Ray Anderson, put it, what's the business case for ending life on Earth? Yeah, there is a business case, and it's breaking out everywhere, whether it be Harvard Business Reports or sustainability certifications or Yvonne Chouinard getting the cover of Fortune magazine or Walmart going green. Trust me, when Walmart goes green, there's a business case. They are not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. Harvard, sustainability isn't the burden on the bottom line it was thought to be. It is the touchstone of all of innovation. And in the future, only companies that have it as a goal will achieve competitive advantage. Those wild-eyed environmentalists at Goldman Sachs. Companies that are leading in sustainability have higher stock value. Ray Anderson and I were sitting one time, and he observed that everything he was doing in his company, Interface, to enhance sustainability was also enhancing shareholder value. And I said, maybe Milton Friedman was right. You've heard the phrase, the triple bottom line. In business, there really is a single bottom line. But how you achieve that bottom line is by being more responsible to people and planet. So you cut your cost, you drive innovation, you reduce risk. In many cases, a commitment to sustainability is what will buy a company the franchise to operate. You cut your legal liabilities. You attract and retain the best talent. Once you have that talent, you enhance their productivity. Market share. This is how you brand. This is how you differentiate. It's also how you manage your supply chain. This is a good bit of why Walmart's going green. They have 100,000 suppliers. Actually, I don't know how many they have. But by putting forth a sustainability scorecard, they're better able to manage them. What they really wanted to do was cut the cost of distrust. They cut in half the number of people who said, I will never shop at a Walmart, by making a commitment to sustainability. They then squandered it all by that totally tone-deaf thing they did, what was it, Thanksgiving a year ago, where one of their store managers put out a box so that associates could donate canned foods so that other associates who were too poor, because Walmart won't pay a living wage, could afford to have Thanksgiving. Walmart hasn't yet figured out the social side of sustainability, but they are very aware of this, and they're very aware that it's a risk. Walmart same-store sales are going down. Costco, which is doing a much better job of treating its people right, same-store sales are going up. This is about corporate survival. It's also about university survival. Ohio State, and this is definitely a duh. A lot of places leave computers on 24/7 because of some urban myths. Shortens the life of the computer to turn it off and on. No. IT needs it left on. No, one night a week will do fine. Just turning them off when nobody's in front of them saved the school $250,000. Should go to academics. Colorado State, $600,000 of savings per year through a variety of energy conservation measures, from reducing copying only on single side. Just set the machine to automatically duplex. Yvonne, Fortune found that companies that walk the talk do a better job in attracting the best talent. Why? Because this is what you want to work for. Overwhelmingly, young people want to work for green companies. Guess what? They want to come to green schools too. So, how do you ensure the survival of your school? Be bold about your commitment to sustainability. This is what ASHE was created to help schools do. And it provides an array of services. The ACU-PCC is the colleges and university presidents' climate commitment. And yes, you've signed it. Now you get to deliver on it. One of the things it says, by the way, is that you will implement sustainability across the campus. You'll embed it in your campus. So, Pete, kudos. The work you're doing with this plan, this is what's going to get you there. If you Google campus sustainability, last time I did it, 17 million hits. ASHE put forth this program, STARS, Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Rating System, specifically for colleges and universities, so that you can set forth what your goals are and measure yourself to it. And then the climate commitment. These are the college presidents and universities that understand that acting on the climate is what will give us a future. Billy McKibben, college professor, put it rather bluntly in his Do the Math tour. We can burn 565 more gigatons of CO2 and stay below 2 degrees C. Remember, 2 degrees C is probably still too high, and this was a 2012 number. The trouble? The fossil fuel companies have on their books 2,795 gigatons of carbon, and their business model is to dig it up and burn it. If they do, we all roast, unless we stop them. Bishop Desmond Tutu, climate change has become the human rights challenge of our time. It is about whether or not people live or die. So, what are you doing to cut your carbon? Now you have an answer to that. You have a plan to begin choosing what your goals are going to be and how it is you're going to meet it. Dave Newport, who was on the board at ASHE, was sustainability coordinator at Florida, University of Florida, then at CU Boulder, says it is not just carbon, it's not just energy, it's not just recycling, it's justice. It's diversity, it's all of these social aspects as well. And it's what you do with your money. What are you invested in? Remember the fossil companies that have all that carbon on their books? Are you invested in them? Because if you are, you're part of the problem. So the students at Swarthmore sat in. They demanded that the administration divest of ownership in fossil companies. Swarthmore was one of the first colleges to start calling for divestment from South Africa. They were in fact one of the last to actually divest, but when they did, South Africa, the white government in South Africa fell apart. And so now the students at Swarthmore Mountain Justice are sitting in. The college said, oh, okay, we'll commit to be carbon neutral by 2035. They had signed that same pledge. And the board said to the students, we'll give you a little pot of money. You can invest it in non-carbon things. Students are still sitting in. They said, we want the college out of carbon. And it's good math. The fossil companies are not performing. And if Tony Saba's right, they will continue to underperform. When the Paris deal was signed, MarketWatch reported, as if it couldn't get any worse for the oil companies, this historic deal, another nail in the coffin of future demand for fossil fuels. Said a Morgan Stanley analyst. This stuff is now penetrating Wall Street. You can do something here on your campus. How you use energy in buildings. The building sector is the biggest consumer of energy. It's responsible for 35 to 40% of our carbon footprint. Sewanee University in Tennessee did their carbon footprint. The buildings were 90% of the town's carbon footprint, because that's basically all the town is a bunch of buildings. Oh, but it's going to cost us a lot of money to fix up our buildings. No, actually, if you're building a new one, do it right the first time. And even if you're retrofitting an old one, the added cost of doing it right is not that big. So guess what? Colleges are starting to do this. And again, they're starting to embed sustainability into their curriculum. And they're realizing if you want your students to be productive, if you want your faculty to be productive, make the buildings green. Studies show you want higher test scores? Have green buildings with good lighting, with good air quality, with good soundproofing. If you can see and breathe and hear yourself think, you're going to do better in school. Studies of students of all ages show that this is true. Oh, by the way, Walmart did an uncontrolled experiment. They did a daylit building. Well, they did half of it, then they lost interest and built the rest of it normal. 40% higher sales on the daylit side. This adds to productivity. If we improved indoor air quality, it could save U.S. businesses $200 billion a year in lost productivity because workers are unhappy, and another $58 billion by not having workers be sick. So colleges are committing to build LEED buildings. Any more LEED certified is just building code. Don't celebrate that. LEED silver is good building practice. Shoot for gold, or even platinum. University of Colorado slapped an extra fee on the students, and they said, okay, we'll pay it if you will commit to build all new buildings at least LEED silver. So now they are. Now the college is trumpeting what a sustainable college it is. And again, college after college after college, LEED. There are now 10 campuses that require all their buildings to be at least certified, many of them silver, some of them gold. Oberlin went platinum. This is the Adam Lewis Science Building at Oberlin. It is what's called a living building. A group up in the Pacific Northwest said LEED's not enough. Even LEED Gold is not enough. And they designed the living building standard, which retroactively they gave to the Oberlin building. It collects all its own energy, all its own water. It treats its waste. The students helped design it. They were involved in the building of it, and they were continuing to be involved in the maintenance of it. Santa Barbara, platinum, LEED, greenest laboratory in the U.S., added only 2% to the cost over what it would have been if they'd have just built a normal building. And they have a whole array of other sustainability practices, cutting their energy use, moving the food service to biodegradables. University of British Columbia. They're taking waste materials and using them as part of the construction materials. Tufts built a solar residence hall. The renovation of one of their buildings, again, went solar, super energy efficient. CU Boulder again did a retrofit on their student center. They've got a biodiesel bus. Hawaii, University of Manoa. They realized they were spending $24.5 million every year on energy. They were facing a budget shortfall, so they implemented energy efficiency. Project will pay them back over $7 million a year. Butte College, 100% renewable. They're taking the savings and investing it in academics. Harvard, everybody holds Harvard up as the great example. They have set forth a set of practices of what it means to be a more sustainable university. And an implementation framework, capital planning, financial and budget planning, and a continual review, continuous improvement. Whole bunch of programs. They've got best practices exchange, green cleaning. If I told you I'm going to take your children, put them in a building and systematically poison them, you'd shoot me. But that's what we do when we use toxic cleaning materials. So a company called Portion Pack has gotten the toxics out of its cleaning materials. Green Seal certified. They also realized that most cleaning materials are just water. You're shipping water around. So they put them in little packets. They concentrated them, put them in little packets. Now you're just shipping the little packets. Color-coded, so if English is not your first language, you know which product goes into which piece of equipment. Much better way of cleaning. And also they've gone to a sustainability as a service. So you contract with them for your cleaning. And they will cut the amount of cleaning materials that you use. Aren't they putting themselves out of business? What they're doing back at their home operation is making themselves so much more efficient that they still have a business model. Eating. We all eat. Bard, where I teach, grows a great deal of its produce. And when you go into the Bard cafeteria, they have a little sign on everything. Where did it come from? And they buy locally. Out in California, the School Lunch Initiative, started by Chez Panisse, Berkeley School District, started having school gardens. So the children grow a lot of their own food. Chef Ann Cooper, who now lives over in Boulder. You might want to have her come over and talk about these programs. Serving real food. Cutting processed food, using local food, grass beef in hamburgers. When you do this, it's much easier to minimize your waste. Now, I think you guys have, without a doubt, the coolest program of feeding the pre-consumer organic material to pigs, and then eating the pig. How cool is that? And it tastes great. University of Maine went at it a bit more pedestrianly. They created their own waste receiving facility and then systematically worked to cut their waste. Curriculum. This stuff is not just what the facilities folks do. It's what the teachers do. It's what the students do. And it's really hard in most universities because academics love to silo. The economists don't talk to the biologists. And particularly if you're tenured and you can teach the same thing you've been teaching for 20 years, you really don't want somebody telling you, hey, there's this new discipline that you need to be embedding into your course. You're right. But it is critically important. And again, it's what students want, it's what students need. So CSU is doing it. They've got a School of Global Environmental Sustainability. They are working with the community. The Fort Collins has what they call Fort Zed. The downtown district is aiming at being entirely carbon neutral. It's what we do at Bard. I said I teach at the Bard graduate programs. We created an MBA in the heart of New York City, right in the financial district, in which sustainability is baked into every class we teach. Yeah, we teach economics and marketing and finance, all of the normal business curriculum from the lens of sustainability. How do you honorably do business in this time of crisis? We also, for those of you who want to go into science, have master's programs in environmental policy and climate. Think about what you want to do with the rest of your life. My old boss, Dave Brower, said, what do you want the Earth to be like 50 years from now? Let's do a little dreaming. Aim high, he said. Navigators have aimed at the stars for centuries. They haven't hit one yet, but because they aimed high, they found their way. Here's what we've done. Normal. It's getting dressed in clothes you buy for work, driving through traffic in a car you're still paying for in order to get to the job you need to pay for the clothes in the car and the house you leave vacant all day so you can afford to live in it. Can't we do a little better? And here's where it gets a little dicey for you guys. Luke Muehlhauser says, sometime this century, machines will surpass human levels of intelligence and ability. And then the question will be, will they need us? Within about 10 years, something like 90% of the jobs we know now will be gone. White-collar jobs, not just the workforce that has already been made redundant. Taxi drivers, Uber drivers, I mean, Uber is a disruptive business model. Uber drivers will be just as gone if you have driverless cars. Driverless trucks are already in operation in the mines. The coal companies say, oh, there's a war on coal, you're putting all these poor coal miners out of business. It's the coal companies been putting them out. Doctors. Robot doctors do a better job of running diagnostics. You put in a set of symptoms, they just sit there and churn algorithms. They don't get tired. They don't mind that they've been up for 36 hours. Lousy bedside manner, but if what you want is an accurate diagnosis. So this is one of the reasons that you ought to think about studying sustainability. It's what we're going to need a lot more of. And it's also now what is generating the jobs. Even in the recession, the green economy outperformed the general economy. They tend to be manufacturing jobs or jobs here in the community. You're going to fix up a building, you're not going to put it on a boat and send it to China. It's going to be done here. Occam Steiner, who runs UN Environment, has said it's going to be half the workforce by 2030. How are we going to pay for it? We're going to get creative. Notre Dame created an Office of Sustainability that they paid for out of the savings from their campus programs. University of British Columbia, again, they're funding themselves out of their energy efficiency, and they're committed to generating $3 million a year in savings. CU Boulder, the students taxed themselves to create a sustainability office on campus. And then they built a blueprint for a green campus. CSU gives grants to students for implementing more sustainable measures. And then there are creative ways of getting financing. A company called Ether out of Wall Street in New York that is financing efficiency improvements for institutions like colleges. No money down. They will come in and finance your efficiency, and then they take their payback out of the savings. Jindal, a company out of Lovins, Colorado, does this with LEDs. Dr. Sylvia Earle, the great oceanographer, said what we do in the next 10 years matters more than what humanity does in the next 10,000. Bucky Fuller said we are called to be the architects of the future, not its victims. We can do this. Again, we have all the technologies. We put a guy on the moon. Though even on the moon we needed a car. We have not yet learned to walk on Earth. This really is the challenge for Earth Day. So what is our connection, each one of us? What our connection to this home, the only home we know of. And we need leadership. You are blessed as a college with spectacular leadership. I've been extraordinarily impressed with Carrie's leadership, with the leadership of all of your administration. But there's a temptation always to say, we need a wizard. Gandalf said, the rule of no realm is mine, but all worthy things that are in peril, as the world now stands, those are my care. And for my part I shall not wholly fail if anything passes through this night that can still grow fair and bear fruit and flower again in the days to come. For I too am a steward, did you not know? But remember, in the story it was these two, it was the fun-loving, unassuming little hobbits who took on their shoulders this awesome task. And they were scared, they didn't know where they were going, but in the end all the kings and warriors and wizards could just stand by as the little people saved the world. I think real leadership is extraordinary courage by ordinary people. Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
We spent a lot of money here on the gift for you. You've never gotten a T-shirt before. But, I guess I'd like to thank both of you and thank you for giving us Peter to work with us and in putting together this plan and now, holy crap, this big journey that we have to go on. And luckily there's all these terrific people out here to make this happen. And I think your talk was very much of an inspiration to us. We appreciate it very much. And again, Peter, thank you for all the work that you did. And now, we're set for quite a journey and a lot of work for everybody that's here. So, we're going to need to get after it. So thank you very much.
I can answer questions if anybody else. We have time.
What do you think, Tina?
Did I say anything controversial? Is it time to, where's the party? McKnight's. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. Since you're teaching at Bard, my nephew just graduated from Bard a couple of years ago and is now earning more money than anyone else in the family.
There you go.
There you go. I am curious, in the New York environment, where New York City is considered a phenomenally sustainable city because everybody's on top of it. What is the attitude of students in comparison to students in Colorado who live with vast vistas of the natural world?
Well, that's an interesting question. New Yorkers prize the little bits of green that they have. And one of the things, our MBA program is right in Manhattan. So at least twice a year we go up to the main Bard campus in Annandale, which is beautiful and has lots of green. So we don't get out of the city. But in many ways, people who live in Manhattan care even more about the natural environment than many of us who take it for granted every day, because they know how important it is. And so New York could source essentially all of its food from up the Hudson, from New Jersey locally. They are beginning to grow food in Manhattan, taking over little vacant bits of land with sort of pop-up gardens, doing rooftop gardening. There's a great guy at a school in Brooklyn who has created a school garden on the roof of the school. Some of my students have created doing fish farming in Brooklyn on the roof of a building. So I think we, in many ways, we're a little more sentimental about it than folk are here where, gosh, you have that view every day. That's pretty awesome. By the way, by, what is it, 2035, 3/4 of humanity will live in cities. Yeah, me neither, but I can do New York for about 4 days, and then I've got to get back to Colorado. But when we think sustainability is going to be all of us living on Orcas Island or rural New England, no, it's not. For most of the world, sustainability is going to be won or lost in cities. So we better get good at it. Yes, sir.
You said 109, I think it was 196 countries just voted in Paris
Formed the accord. They agreed to the accord. Now they have to sign it, the way these things go.
So 196 countries agreed to, we're going to do something about man-made climate change. Which two leading presidential candidates don't believe in climate change. They happen to be from the same party, but they're two leading candidates. How do those two things mesh?
Okay, let's do what ifs. Donald Trump gets elected. He's a businessman. Yeah, I know. He's a businessman. You go to him with a business case argument. And yeah, it's a bad choice, but as between the two, I think I might take Donald. Because he is a businessman. And you can make business case arguments. When you start getting into the theological, it gets a little tough. And indeed, we had this problem under Ronald Reagan, many of whose appointees believed that the end times were upon us. And actually thought if they hurried it along, they personally would get to be lifted up in the rapture. That's dangerous. I don't know how to argue with somebody like that. But I can argue with a businessman all day long. I hope I don't have to. And by the way, whoever you support, please go vote. This is what democracy is. We've had lousy politicians for a long time. We'll get through it if people stand up for what they believe in. If you don't, if you're not active, the politician will do whatever it is they want to do. They won't notice if they step on your toes because they don't know where your toes are. So it's up to us to tell them and to get active. Me, I'm a member of an extinct party. I'm Teddy Roosevelt Republican. So I have a hard time every election. Yes?
With that being said, with the climate change deniers, do you think that going the business route and like making money on PV solar panels is the route to go?
Yeah, I do. You ought to make as much money as you can doing the right thing because it brings everybody else in. And because if you are wildly successful in your business, it gets the darn thing spread around. I'm a huge supporter of a man named Jigger Shaw, founder of a company called Sun Edison, which just went bankrupt. Sun Edison went bankrupt because of bad management. Jigger had left, and the folk who had it wanted to take over the market. So they went on a buying spree. They bought up as many companies as they could, and they violated Miss Piggy's fourth law, never try to eat more than you can lift. It matters that you do business right. And so one of the things that I do is mentor young entrepreneurs on things like this. That when you're growing, it's one of the most dangerous times in the life of a business. You overrun yourself, you're going to crash and burn. But yeah, I think for any of you who want to go into business, bless you. Go be wildly successful doing the right thing. And people say, I don't like big business. I want little startups to be wildly successful, become big businesses doing the right thing. Sir?
So, what would you tell someone if they decide that they want to devote every part of themselves to making a change? You tell them, go to school, get on top.
Not necessarily. Close your ears. I would tell them what the folk singer Kate Wolf said. Find what you care about and live a life that shows it. I know a number of young people who take a gap year or the rest of their life and do what it is that they're passionate about and make a hell of a difference. I personally believe in education. I think the more you know about a subject, the better at it you're going to be. But I have huge respect for the young entrepreneurs who just want to get into business and get about doing it. Or the volunteers who are now over in Lesbos, helping the people that are dying in the Mediterranean, the refugees. Do you know there's 60 million refugees on the move right now? 60 million. We have no idea what to do with them. So, these young people that are just leaving college and going and trying to help, they have no idea what they're going to do with them either. Greece has no idea. The EU has no idea what it's going to do with them, except send them back. So now they're all going to be prisoners in Turkey. And they're going to keep coming because of climate change across the north of Africa and these failed states. Until we as a world make this commitment to make the world work for everybody. How do you do that? Well, a group of us are going to meet in New York 15th of May. Some of the brightest minds I've been able to find from around the world, and try to frame up a new narrative of an economy in service to life, and then a strategy of how we get there. So, wish us luck. Good luck. Seriously, who would run for president? It's a thankless task. So just like tip your bartenders and waitresses, say thanks to the politicians who have the guts to step up and do that. I don't think I could do it. Even the bad ones? Yeah, even the bad ones. That they care enough to try to go into politics. And by the way, thanking people is a real good way to start a conversation. There's an amazing group now forming in Boulder called the Bridge Alliance to quit this partisan politics of polarizing to the far extremes and to get back to where Americans can have conversations. My across-the-fence neighbor, my roping partner, is the chair of the Boulder County Republicans. And we go roping and sit around and talk. Respect each other enormously. We're neighbors. We disagree on just about everything political. We put up hay with an old boy who is a huge fan of Donald Trump, although I think he's wavering on that. But he spends all day long watching Fox News. And he and his wife are our best friends. You don't have to hate somebody because you disagree with them. And that's a lesson that Americans need to learn, or we really will tear ourselves apart. We need to have conversations. And when you do that, I sit down with this old boy and talk about the economics of solar, or how it is that we're going to solve the fact that last year, this is still April, June 6th, I think. When was the Heroes dinner? 4th, maybe? It flooded in Boulder County. Never rains in June in Boulder. And we had 2 foot of water. We had 4 foot of water coming across the bottom of the lane into the ranch. I was with a guy with a big old truck, and I said, don't go into that. There was a turtle, I swear to God, there was a turtle this big, swimming upstream in the water. Where did that come from? So Gordon and I were sitting talking about, how come it's raining like this? And I ran some scientific models for him. Like, okay, don't call it global warming, call it global weirding. He he said, yeah, it's weird. You can have real conversations, even with people you disagree with. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, Alan. There's a man named Alan Savory. I ran into Alan back in the 80s. He was a Rhodesian wildlife biologist who, and you can go on YouTube, Google Alan Savory TED, and watch his TED Talk where he describes this. He was asked to shoot elephants because the elephants were eating all the grass that the ranchers needed. So he shot a whole bunch of elephants, and the grass got worse. And he started watching, and he looked at where native herds moved across the landscape in a healthy situation. Dense packed because there were lions, and if something's going to eat you, the safe place to be is in the middle of the herd. And where the herds were truly wild, and there were predators, there was lots of grass. And where the native people herded cattle, there was some grass. Where the white people herded cattle, there was no grass. And Alan said, something's wrong. And again, just started looking at what was going on. Evolved the theory based on a South African writer named Jan Smuts, who talked about holism, holistic. And Alan set forth holistic planned grazing. And so I heard about this. I had 1,000 acres of ground that had been managed very badly, was eroding, overrun with noxious weeds. And so I brought Alan up, and we walked the land, and he helped us lay out a strategy for it. Every piece of ground is different, so you can't say you do these 5 things and you're good. You have to know your piece of ground. And within 2 years, we had wetlands back, the weeds were going away, we were rehabilitating the ground using cattle. And oh my God, cattle are supposed to be the enemy of environmentalists. But grazing animals raised the way they co-evolved with grasslands. The world's grasslands are the second biggest carbon sink on the planet after the oceans. And we are decarbonizing them. When the pioneers came across the Great Plains, they found 10 feet of thick black soil. That black is carbon. And now it's gone, it's inches. We're decarbonizing the soil. Another video for you to watch, Regenerative Agriculture with Gabe Brown. Gabe's a North Dakota soybean farmer and rancher. And he has started to implement this, and he describes what happened on his piece of ground. Another video, Joel Salatin, S-A-L-A-T-I-N, Slope, Virginia. Took over a clapped-out Virginia farm and has brought it back. Again, using grazing animals. Pigs! He runs the cows, then he runs chickens over them, and then he runs pigs. And he's producing a whole set of different products, so his farm is profitable. Again, we know how to solve all these problems. We just need to start implementing them. Now, the exciting thing about holistic planned grazing, if we increase soil carbon 2%, we soak up all of the man-made carbon that we're emitting. Then there's biochar. If you take organic material, cook it at low temperature in the absence of oxygen, you create char. Put that in the soil, and it makes the soil more productive. It holds water. It creates, because of the grain structure, it creates spaces for the microorganisms, and it puts carbon in the soil. Or compost-based organic agriculture, which the Rodale Institute has been doing for decades. And the studies are now coming in. This stuff works. It takes carbon out of the air, puts it back in the soil. So yeah, we need all the energy efficiency, changing out the light bulbs, building the buildings right, changing our transportation sector, eliminating waste, having a circular economy, all of the stuff that's now in your set of recommendations to create a sustainability plan. And if we start implementing holistic plant grazing, biochar, and organic agriculture, we can solve the climate crisis, and again, we do so at a profit.
Did you say that we can increase soil carbon by 2%? We can soak up all the emissions?
It's not a lot. However, it is a big world. So it is a lot.
Could you talk about the best possible relationship between conservation of nature and biodiversity and a sustainability program?
Well, I think you've said it. They have to go together. There was a nice series, I think it came out last Earth Day, Nature Speaks. You can Google that. They're little short clips with various movie actors being the voice of various bits of nature. And each one ends with the tagline, nature doesn't need us. We need nature. So we conserve what it is that we have, or we lose. And blessings on the people who are saving intact bits of ecosystems. Is that enough? No. We need all of the energy efficiency measures, all the renewable energy measures, and then we need to start restoring the lands we've degraded, aiming at creating a regenerative society. So it's all part of this integrated whole. We need all of it. And it's tempting to say, I'm just one person, I can't do it all. It's okay. Because look at all of you. They're all of us. And you look around the world, we have a growing movement of people who care, who are getting active in whatever field they're in. You say to yourself, I want to work in a big company. Wonderful. Go do it. Make them green. That is the greenest thing you can do. Go work for a company that's not green and turn them. I want to work in a little company, in a little community. Excellent. Help your community become a regenerative community. There's work for all of us. If we stop being a darn bucket of crabs and tearing each other down, we do have to learn to work together. And maybe that's a good place to leave it. The name again of the pub? Midnight. I'll see you there.
Just for a point of clarification, there are two parties.
She's got a big night.
Student one is at McKnight's, and then there's a faculty and staff one at Rex's. So